What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GRP. Back at it again on a Thursday. Got my drink and I'm ready to go. And I'm hoping that we have no problems. I've changed a few things and some settings and stuff, and I know that's kind of one of those bad things to do right before you start, but I had to make sure. And I'm hoping that everything's good because my mic volume last night on Technically and Sound was a bit off key, so it was just kind of high, didn't sound the best, so I'm hoping that everything's good now. So let me know if everything sounds okay. Hopefully it does. My wife's looking out for me, so I know she's gonna let me know soon. I'm hoping that it's fine. I did make a couple extra changes right before I jumped in, and that's always scary, but okay. So chug the drink. Cold Art Maker in the chat already. What's up, bro? I'm not gonna chug. That shit is tough. That is a tough drink to chug if you've ever had an old fashioned. But what's going on, man? Welcome back. Hopefully you've been catching all the fights, gotten any hot takes right off the top. You usually do, so I figured I'd ask. But welcome back. And anybody else that's here live, jump in the chat if you want to discuss anything or have any comments. Chat's always open. So yeah. And this week we got a recap of the UFC Vegas 98 that happened last weekend. We got some pretty decent fights coming up this weekend. PFL coming back with a pay-per-view, which, yeah, I don't know that it's pay-per-view worthy, but either way, we have Max Holloway head kicks Ilya in round 5. Yeah, I agree, and I hope that's what happens because Ilya Topuria has kind of been getting on my nerves lately with some of the shit he's got to say. So I'm with you on that one, Cold Art Maker. But yeah, we got Francis Ngannou coming back to MMA finally after a while of being out. Some people thought he wasn't going to come back after the nasty knockout he took in boxing, but he's coming back. And then we got Cris Cyborg coming back, making her debut as well in the PFL. So some big things happening at the PFL, including their owner talking mad shit about Kayla Harrison, John Jones, Dana White as usual, and the whole UFC really. But does anybody really give a shit what that nerdy old fuck says? I don't know. I don't. He's an annoying asshole, and I've heard some bad things. And Dana White's not the best person in the world as far as his demeanor with the way he talks about some of his fighters and stuff like that. But he's not as bad as this guy. This guy's just fucking annoying. Don Davis is his name. Look him up. He's just, I don't know. He's just one of those guys that shouldn't be on a mic. He's trying to be Dana White, and it's cringy as shit. And just some of the shit he says is stupid. Like, you don't have anything to back up what you're saying, so you should probably just shut the fuck up. Maybe it's too early to be talking like that on the pod, but I don't care. It's true. If you go watch any of his interviews, you'll understand what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, we actually have some news this week going on. So we'll get into that here pretty quickly. But just wanted to say thanks to everybody for birthday wishes and whatnot. Anybody that's listening that is friends of mine and stuff. Tuesday was my birthday, so had a pretty good day. Got to hang out with the kids, and my kids are older, so they, don't always get to hang around and do stuff together like we used to when they were little. So I was appreciative that they went out to dinner with us and stuff and got to hang out, and got some cool gifts. I got these new headphones, which I've been wanting for a while. They are pretty damn nice, and I'm enjoying the hell out of them so far. But they're the Rode headphones, so kind of matches my mic. Got the Rodecaster, got a lot of Rode products, so got to keep it on along with the Rode. But these are really nice. I've wanted these for a while. They feel good. They're pretty good quality and shit. So I got this hat too. Trent got me this hat, so it's pretty dope. Good Braves hat. Always gotta love a Braves hat. So This one's badass though. I mean, I had my eye on it for a while. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or want it, but man, it's pretty dope in person. So I'm happy I got it, and I figured I'd sport it for tonight. Even though they fucked up and they got out of the playoffs the second they got in, so the season's over and for them, and they're not doing shit this year. But it's all right because either way, it was a good season, and hopefully next year they come back stronger. They're always at least barely making it to the playoffs, but at least they're up there and not constantly in last place. So I always support my team. I've been a fan for way too long to just give up now. I'll be a lifelong fan. So that's why I wear Braves hats the most. But my football team is the Colts. So it is football season. I'll try to wear my Colts hats more. But I have so many Braves hats, it's like hard not to just throw one of those on all the time. But anyway, had a good birthday. Today's my Pop's birthday, so happy birthday, Pops. If he's listening, he usually does at some point. Text him earlier this morning, but yeah, I just want to give him a shout out. Happy birthday, Pops. Hopefully your day's been pretty good. We're going to hang out on Sunday and eat some food together and stuff, so that'll be good. And yeah, so that's about it for my week. I took the day off for my birthday. Not planning on it, but not a whole lot going on at work, so I went ahead and took the day off and got a lot of stuff done in here. That's why I was saying I made some changes and whatnot, and I'm hoping that those changes will help with the watch party, because there were some things I was just kind of ignoring, not ignoring, because I just didn't realize it. But I had some stuff. I had some stuff that I needed to clean up, memory wise. So I'm thinking that's what the problem was with the watch party. I've had that problem in the past, and I'm hoping that this clears it up. So we'll see if I do the daytime watch party coming up in a couple weeks here for UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be during the day. The main card's going to start at like noon Arizona time. So it's an early start. It's a daytime fight. It's happened before. So I mean, really, it's not a bad thing. It's kind of cool when it's during the day. It just kind of throws things off in a weird direction for watch parties and stuff. I just don't know if I want to do one during the day. I guess we'll see what happens, because I still have a life outside of this. This isn't the only thing I do. I mean, I wish it was sometimes, because then I could focus a lot more time on it. But it's okay. I have fun doing it while I can, and then I take care of everything else I need to as well. So, but that's about it. I just wanted to give my dad a shout out and just talk about the good time and good day I had for my birthday. So now that we're done with all that, and yeah, we got a lot to talk about with Combat Sports News, especially. There's some stuff going on there. So I actually have some things to talk about there. It'll be a little bit longer. Let's jump into it, though, and we'll start off with that PFL event I was talking about. Because, like I said, Francis Ngannou is back to MMA after suffering that massive knockout loss against Anthony Joshua, where he got knocked down multiple times and then got knocked out cold. That was tough. That was nasty, and it sucked to see him, it sucked to see him get knocked out like that. But yeah, I'm just glad that he made his way back. And then unfortunately he, lost his son. So that was tough for him too. He gets knocked out. He loses a boxing match that was really big for him. And then he loses his son. Above everything else, it's like, holy shit. I don't even know how he deals with it, or how he's dealing with it the way he is. But and there was some controversy here with his opponent. Renan Ferreira is his opponent, and he's like one of the biggest guys in the PFL right now. He's bigger than Francis, and we all know how big Francis is as far as stature, like how big he is in weight, musculature, and height, and he hits hard as fuck. But Renan Ferreira has been showing and proving that he's a force to be reckoned with as well. So that's his opponent. And some stuff that he said got misconstrued when they started talking about this fight and starting to promo this fight. A lot of people had some hate for him because they thought that he was talking about the fact that he needed to just kind of get over it, talking about his son, but really it wasn't that. And you know, people just took things out of context. He didn't even say anything about his son. He just said there's some things you got to get over and just get past it and move on. And what he was talking about was getting knocked out by Anthony Joshua. So at least that's what it's been reported. You know, he doesn't really speak English well, so it's just one of those things that he said and was pretty regrettable right away. So that was bad. But yeah, he's fighting Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight championship, super fights championship, I guess. So it's, I'm looking to see. So this is the super fights division that Jake Paul talked about when he signed with PFL. And it's one of those things where we don't know, like, but we weren't sure what to think. You know, he said it was going to be pay-per-view. He said that that he was going to be fighting in MMA, and that hasn't happened yet. No talks of that yet. He still has his fight coming up next month with Mike Tyson. Surprisingly, it's still on. So, but yeah, this is the super fights division, and Francis Ngannou and Ferreira are, you know, going to be some of the first fights in that division and for the belt. And this is going to be in the heavyweight division. So also fighting is Cris Cyborg, making her debut in the PFL. Oh, look, this is the height. I mean, the size difference between Ngannou and Ferreira. So you could see Jake Paul there in the middle as he faced him off. But obviously he looks fucking tiny. And we know Jake Paul's not the smallest dude in the world. Not the biggest, but not the smallest. But next to these two fucking monsters, he looks like a little kid. But look at Renan Ferreira's taller, looks a little bigger. I mean, I know Ngannou's wearing a suit, but yeah, still, I mean, with how impressively big Ngannou is, Ferreira's just gigantic. So, and we've seen some big knockouts from him. And so they're going to be clashing this Saturday coming up in the PFL. It is a pay-per-view. I think it's like $50 to buy the pay-per-view. I'm not going to buy it. The whole card is not great. There's like 3 fights that are pretty damn good at the top of the main event, or I mean the main card. But as far as the rest of the card, it's not the best. So it's tough when you buy all the pay-per-views for UFC and then you get to this and you're like, man, I gotta pay for this too. I mean, there's some other names at the bottom. Nothing much to begin the prelims, but the main prelim fight is Rufian Stotts versus Marcos Breno. And then you got AJ McKee versus Paul Hughes to start the main card. Hussein, I don't even know who those two are. Johnny Eblen versus Fabian Edwards. That's going to be a good one. Johnny Eblen's been on a tear and has been one of the big up-and-coming fighters that Bellator had for a while. So this is a Bellator middleweight championship. So this is what they're doing. They're mixing up Bellator fights and PFL fights all in one card. So I guess that's what they mean by Super Fights League or Super Fights Division. So I guess that's one thing that's different. I mean, they have potential here to do something unique, which they're doing already by doing stuff like this, but they absorbed Bellator. They bought it out, took it over. So of course it's easy enough to do something like this when they're still running the Bellator name. But I mean, it is different, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot when all these fighters are under the PFL banner, basically. So either way, Johnny Eblen fighting Fabian Edwards. Fabian Edwards is Leon Edwards' brother, who was the former middleweight champion. Middleweight or welterweight? Welterweight. So he's going for the Bellator middleweight championship, which Johnny Eblen is the champ right now. So that fight is happening. And then above that one is I should have been, oops, damn it. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Cyborg versus Pacheco. So Cris Cyborg, being a former UFC fighter, making her debut in PFL. Obviously she was in Bellator before, so this is kind of a Bellator versus PFL fight. To kickbox me? Why is everybody always wanting to fight me? I don't understand. I don't come in here talking shit like I'm the best fighter in the world or anything like that, but people always want to fight me. I guess this is what the chat does to every MMA podcast, maybe. I get it, man. We all like fighting, but what the hell? I am no professional fighter whatsoever. Oh, this is Von Devin in the chat says, do you want to kickbox me? I find it hilarious. I mean, it's entertaining and it's funny, so whatever. But sure, no, yes, no, I don't know, who gives a shit. Why are you asking me in the chat if I want to kickbox you? Anyway, it's funny. Yeah, Cris Cyborg, I don't know if she's actually under Bellator or under PFL, but in this picture they show Cris Cyborg in a Bellator top, and Larissa Pacheco is in a PFL because she's been in the PFL. She's the only one to have beaten Kayla Harrison before, so that should be a pretty good fight because Pacheco's a beast. I mean, she went to decision with Kayla, so it's not like, you know, it's not like she completely dominated her, I would say. And she didn't knock her out, but she has knocked out quite a few people before. She's a beast, and so is Cyborg, but Cyborg's older. She's got a lot of miles on her. She's suffered some knockouts of her own, but when she goes up against people that are not in UFC, she seems to do better. So I guess we'll see how much she still has with her right now as far as fighting goes. And making her PFL debut, she's going to be looking to get a pretty good finish here and show everybody that she's better than Pacheco, who and in turn she's going to say that, you know, she would have beat Kayla because she says that already. So I don't know, I guess it's a good fight in the manner of they're both pretty big women that can knock people out. So it could be very fun, very interesting. Here's the rest of the card. Like I was saying, AJ McKee, Paul Hughes, Hussein versus Zafar, I can't say their last names, Johnny Eblen versus Fabian Edwards, Cris Cyborg, Larissa Pacheco, and of course the main event is Francis Ngannou versus Renan Ferreira. Should be pretty good, happening Saturday, ESPN Plus and pay-per-view, DAZN. You can watch it everywhere on those, but it is a pay-per-view, so you got to pay for it. I'll be watching for those highlights. I highly doubt I'm going to be buying that one. Because like I said, I mean, 4 out of the 5 fights are people I know, but that doesn't mean it's not like the biggest stars. So it is what it is, but that's happening this weekend. And it's interesting to see how Ngannou bounces back from that big KO and how he does against someone even bigger than him in Renan Ferreira. I don't know that Ferreira can hang with Ngannou if Ngannou comes out looking stronger and better than ever. If he bounces back well from that knockout, then I could see Ferreira having a tough time, and that is something that a lot of people have talked about. But you never know when you come back from a knockout like that. And then he's got all the personal stuff that happened. How is that affecting him? We don't know yet. So that's one of the factors that has to be thought about when thinking about this fight. So I guess we'll find out. Let's see. I actually forgot to do a few things that I'm gonna fix right now. But yeah, moving on. Some unfortunate news. Mike Perry in the news for bad stuff again. He got arrested for a DUI, which is unfortunate because he had stayed away from legal troubles and stuff like that for a while. He hadn't really gotten involved in any outside problems outside of fighting, especially with the law and stuff like that. He was having a bunch of issues with his baby mama for a while and things like that, and that was affecting him quite a bit. And you know, it was kind of looking like, you know, he was going to be one of those guys that just can't get his stuff together. But yeah, he got to be a lot better, and then became basically the face of BKFC, which was pretty impressive, the way that he turned things around, knocking people out left and right in BKFC, bloody wars, and his career was just going great. Then he fought Jake Paul, and it just seemed like since he fought Jake Paul and lost, you haven't really heard much from him. He's been on his podcast and stuff. There was what else? There wasn't much else going on with him, but he just stayed out of trouble, really, but he just hasn't fought, and we haven't heard much from him. There was that whole thing with Conor where Conor was saying that he fired him, which, I mean, whatever you want to believe about Conor, but Mike Perry's like, you can't fire me. I have stakes in the BKFC as well, so he's a part owner as well. So yeah, there was that, but you haven't really heard much from him. So yeah. And then we find out about this, and there was the police body cam footage that came out, and I mean, it wasn't good. Like, the stuff he was saying was not great, but he was drunk. It's probably good that he got pulled over in the manner that he didn't put anybody in harm's way. He didn't hurt anybody, but it's still the fact that he was driving drunk, not good. He had his baby mama with him, and he didn't resist or anything like that, but he was definitely mouthing off to the cops and being disrespectful. He refused the what do you call it? What the hell's it called when you have to take the test? Field sobriety test. That's what it was. He refused that, so right away they put him in cuffs, and he got a $1,500 fine, driving under the influence of alcohol and refusing to sign a citation requiring a court appearance. $1,500 bond, got out right away. So now we wait and see what's going to happen with him with that, but I'm hoping that he just gets past this, puts it all aside, and continues on the streak that he was on for BKFC. He needs to get back in there. He seems to be better when he's fighting, when he has something going on. So hopefully he gets back to all that soon, and this doesn't affect him too bad, because he was on a good path. So I'd like to see him get back into that good mode that he was in and just focus back on fighting and doing the good things he was doing, because people loved him. Like, we're loving him. They were just, everyone was all about Mike Perry and how well he was doing, and he's the face of BKFC, unbeatable, king of violence. So and of course, yeah, the king of violence out here wilding out in the streets, but it's not a good excuse, and it's not the way to go. So I'm hoping that he gets past it and bounces back in a good way. So we'll move on to another guy who likes to wild out everywhere he goes. Another former champion, former double champ, two-time champ, however many champs you want to talk about, Conor McGregor. Here he is with the Schmo, which I don't know if anybody likes the Schmo. I mean, he gets a lot of views and stuff. I can't talk shit. He gets way more views than me. He's way more popular. He's obviously there with Conor, but I don't understand the appeal. I really don't, because he plays a character. I mean, obviously it's a character. Look, he has his face all over his jacket and his vest. But people seem to like it. He wears those goofy glasses. He talks funny. I don't know. I don't get it really, but I guess maybe that's what appeals to the public. I guess that's what everybody likes. Maybe I need to start doing goofy shit. Not gonna happen, but maybe people think I'm goofy already. I don't know. But I definitely don't have the appeal he has. So I mean, good on him and everything. He gets interviews with fighters. People like him. Dana White talked shit to him one time, but all it did was generate views for all of his content. So I mean, it benefits him. Either way, he was over with Conor during the BKFC event that was happening somewhere overseas. I don't even know where the hell it was. I haven't been covering all the BKFC stuff because It's just kind of, they put on enough fights to where it's like, I don't know any of these people. So I only cover it really when I know some of them. Maybe I need to dive a little deeper into it and start getting involved a little more with BKFC, because it is exciting, it is fun. Like I've said it 1,000 times. If you like exciting, bloody matches, you're gonna get them in BKFC, because with bare knuckle fighting, you're gonna get cut up, you're gonna get beat up, there's gonna be damage all over the place. So yeah, I mean, it's a good one to watch if that's what you want to see. So Conor was there, and he's been doing all the face-offs, he's been in the cage, he's all over the place with BKFC, he's all in on BKFC. So I don't know what else to say. He's basically the mascot of BKFC now. and I say mascot because he really does. He acts a fool. He kind of is a little cringy in there, and he's a part owner now, so I guess that makes him well, let's be real, we know what it is. BKFC's taking advantage of the name that they have. You know, the fact that the UFC hasn't really like said much about the fact that he's over there doing all this, the fact that they're not like forbidding him to do it, causing issues or whatever. So they're going to take advantage of the clout that Conor McGregor has. And I mean, so he's over here doing face-offs. He's breaking up the fights that are happening during the face-offs. He's got the belt in his hand. He's like showing off the belt like he just won it. So it's funny. It's funny. It's entertaining. That's what people like, and that's what people expect from Conor McGregor. So I guess I can't, you know, I shouldn't be surprised. But it's just like, man, Conor, sometimes you just got to chill the fuck out. And he's just on a rampage, going nuts, wilding out with everything he does. He now has his own record label called Greenbacks or something like that. Green, I don't even remember what it is. He signed Exhibit. He signed Kodak Black. He signed shit, I can't remember who else. Those are the two big names though that I remember hearing. And yeah, so here he is with Exhibit. Well, Exhibit's it's like an after party in the cage. They're partying in the middle of the ring. I keep saying cage, it's actually a ring. And Conor was all over the place. He was drinking in the ring, and he's like pouring fucking his beer into Kodak Black's mouth. It was insane. And you know, that's Conor for you, I guess. Shouldn't be surprised, but again, just wilding out, being a fool. And it's like, when is it? This is why people keep questioning, is he ever gonna come back and fight? Because he's doing all this shit. It doesn't look like he's training. He doesn't seem to have a whole lot going on when it comes to getting back to fighting. So a lot of people are concerned. A lot of people are questioning whether or not he's ever going to make it back and ever going to fight again. So I guess we'll find out. Right now he's having the time of his life. He's got his wife in the ring with him. Ain't no party like a Conor party. What's up, Tommy? Tommy from Technically Unsound is in the chat. Yeah, let's hope that Conor's not doing what Diddy did, because that would be bad. But he's definitely throwing Conor parties. And he's also wilding out in front of his wife, doing crazy shit that we see pictures of him doing when she's not around. He's in the ring with one of the female fighters, Britain Hart, and she's like dancing all, she's in a tight dress, dancing all provocatively, shaking her ass, and he's comes up behind her and looks like he's about to grind on her, and instead he grabs her hair and is like pulling her hair like in a weird sexual way. And then his wife like says something, he drops her hair, stands back, and then starts talking to her about it and like laughing, saying, and he pulls her hair, like showing her what he was doing. It's weird, man. Conor's on another level. Well, I guess, fuck, he's living his best life, but he also got caught saying some shit in passing about the fact that apparently he's in talks, or he's already set up a fight with Dan Hooker in February in Saudi Arabia. How much truth there is to that, no one knows, of course. The UFC is definitely not going to talk about it if it's not something that's been released or if it's not set in stone. So he said February 1st in Saudi Arabia, Dan Hooker. Hooker responded, lock it in. Yeah, I jumped in the ring. McGregor and I had a few words inside the ring, but yeah, February 1st works for me in Saudi. We'll get that thing straight away. I mean, that would be an entertaining fight. Dan Hooker's one of those guys that's definitely in there to go to war all the time. Is Conor ready for that? I don't know. Is Dan Hooker gonna get like some kind of fucking blinded by the fame of Conor McGregor? I don't think so, but I definitely don't know if Conor comes in like the Conor of old, Hooker has no chance. But if he comes in there looking like Conor the last time we saw him fighting, Hooker has a good chance of beating him. And that might not be the first time that Conor McGregor's ever been beaten by a hooker. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. Dan Hooker, I'm sorry for using your name. But yeah, here we go. Rick Allen back in the chat. Gonna catch that chin soon, bro. You won't see it coming. That's right. I won't see it coming because it ain't gonna happen. But you know what I forgot? Rick Allen just reminded me that I did not talk about my sponsor, which is Noctane smelling salts. And I didn't even take a hit of the smelling salts. And that's dumb of me. So this is for Rick Allen because he's going to need some smelling salts if he ever tries to do what he's saying he's going to do. I knew there was something missing. Noctane smelling salts. I'll put the QR code up at the end. I don't know why I forgot. Thanks for the sponsorship though. Always appreciate it. Red cap is the strongest potency. I'll go over it again at the end of the pod, and I will put the QR code up. You can follow that. Go check them out. Some of the guys from Technically Smelling Salts aren't gonna revive you when I get done with you. Okay. So yeah, go check out their website. Some of the guys from Technically and Sound said they were either gonna buy some or already did. I think Infinity said he already bought some. He's waiting for them to come in. So check it out. They're gonna try them out. We're gonna have some smelling salt parties. Just kidding. No Diddy. But yeah, go check it out, and I will pop that QR code up a little later just to remind you. Rick Allen, you might want to buy some for yourself. Might help you out. Get you a little more alert. But yeah, back to Dan Hooker versus Conor McGregor. Will it happen? Won't it happen? I don't know. February's a while away. Conor better start locking it down. Maybe put the fucking forged Irish stout aside for a little while and do some training so we can actually see you get back in there and fight again. Speaking of getting back in there and fighting, Cowboy Cerrone is saying that he's coming back. He's been gone for a while. He has 48 UFC fights. He wants to make it an even 50 and then go back into retirement. So he had a bunch of injuries. He was fighting so often that he was, kind of getting worn out and just tired, I guess. So he had some stuff he needed to take care of. He's been out for a while, and he said right away, I'm gonna go to Turkey and get some hair because I guess that's where the hair transplant happens. He definitely did that. And then he said he's gonna get on TRT and steroids and stuff and make himself better. So he did that too, and he looks bigger and better than ever. But I mean, that can't help him if he comes back to the UFC, because he has to get back into that testing pool, and you got to be in there for at least 6 months before you can fight with at least 2 clean tests or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know all the stipulations anymore. It's different than USADA, but the same. But they have a different company doing the testing. Either way, he has to be in there and test. So after doing all the testosterone, peptides, anything else that he's been doing, he says he's gonna get right off of that stuff, and he's gonna start training in a camp like you would for a fight, and hope to get his last 2 fights in the UFC. So there's been all kinds of speculation as to who he could be fighting. A lot of the good suggestions would be Tony Ferguson, because we don't even know if we want to see Tony fighting anymore. But at least if Cowboy comes back, he's not fighting some young, lion that's out there to just rip his head off. And because that would be bad. But Cowboy would take that fight. That's the thing. He would take a fight with somebody who is an up and comer, undefeated, highly touted prospect. He would take that fight. And that's what we don't want to see. Because if Cowboy's going to come back for 2 more fights and nobody can stop him and the UFC is going to let it happen, let's just give him some good fights. Tony Ferguson, maybe Nick Diaz, depending on how he does on this fight against Vicente Luque coming up. If Nate Diaz comes back, they can fight him again. Jorge Masvidal said he's coming back. That's another one. So maybe him and Masvidal can fight. Yeah, there's a few fights out there. I just don't want to get him in there with somebody who's trying to, work their way up the rankings and making an example out of him that he's too old and that he should have stayed retired. That's what I don't want to see. So if they're going to let him come back, if he's going to come back 100%, let's make some good fights. All of those are fights that I've heard people talk about with him, and I think those are all very good idea. Jim Miller maybe, but I think he's going to fight at like 170. I think Jim Miller retired already. What am I talking about? He retired at UFC 300. Yeah. Let's see who else. I don't even know. There's a few guys out there that he could fight. So I'm hoping that they give him some good ones and not some really, really bad fights. But yeah, he's 41 years old and he says he's coming back for 2 more fights and that he's healthy as he's ever been. So let's hope that if he does, everything's good and he gets a couple fights and then just lets it go. Because at this point, I would feel better if he would just stay retired. It wasn't the best outing in his last fight, but we don't need to see him coming in here being like BJ Penn, who came back, got knocked out multiple times really badly. I don't want to see that again. So, and I definitely don't want to see that with Cowboy. But good luck to Cowboy anyway, and I'll definitely be watching his fights if he comes back. He's one of my all-time favorites. Met him a few times. He's a cool dude. And yeah, I like him a lot. I followed him since before he was even in the UFC. So that's why I'd rather just see him, walk away like he did. But I get it. He wants to get the 2 more fights in. Let's do it the right way. So moving on to Dana White's Contender Series. Week 10. This was the last week for the Contender Series for this season. So they do them in seasons, and it's one of the only things that there's like actually an off season for MMA is with the Contender Series. But every Tuesday, Dana White showcases fighters that want to fight to get into the UFC and earn a contract, and that's what this series is all about. So if you ever watch Dana White's Looking for a Fight, this is kind of an offshoot of that. Like they turned that into this, even though they still do Looking for a Fight. Then those guys will probably wind up when they go around to different cities, different states, and look at all the regional fights and sign guys to the UFC basically, or to the Ultimate Fighter, or now the Contender Series. It's been going on for a while. We've had some champions come out of the Contender Series, so it's a good place to watch and maybe find your new favorite fighter to follow, and hopefully watch them make their way into the UFC and all the way up to a championship. It's a cool way to follow people and get to know some of the fighters from their beginning in the UFC. But yeah, this past Tuesday was the last one for the season for this year, and we had typical 5 fights on the card. Klein versus Souza, Guru versus Piccanini, Montero versus Delvel, Martinez versus Hernandez, and Ado versus Mikaulif. Those were the fights, and we'll start with that last one, Mikaulif. He was the favorite, and he did get a win by submission by triangle. That was in the first round, so it was a pretty quick fight for him. 3 minutes in, gets a sub by triangle choke, and he actually got up and walked over to, was that him? I'm trying to remember. Hold on. Maybe it might have been Klein. It was him or Klein. I don't remember. I think it was Klein. I'll get to that in a minute. But one of them just walks over to Dana and goes, John Jones is the greatest fighter to ever fight in the UFC. And it's just like, what I saw, the meme was like, this is the best way to get a contract to the UFC. And it's just talking about what Dana talks about all the time, which is John Jones being the best fighter ever, like being the GOAT. So moving on to the women, we had Julieta Martinez versus Leslie Hernandez. This was the only fight to not get a contract. Martinez got the win by split decision, and she looked pretty good in the fight, but she's very young. I guess she's only like 20 years old, and Dana actually talked to her a little bit when he was handing out contracts, just telling her that, you know, you're not gonna like the fact that I'm saying this right now, but I feel like you're too young. I feel like you need to just, you know, get some more fights under your belt, come back, and once you get some more experience, then I'm sure you can, you know, make your way into the UFC. So she did get a split decision win over Leslie Hernandez, but did not get a contract. So then we move over to Yadir Delvel versus Antonio Montero. And this was a pretty good fight all the way through. As you could see, Montero's a little bloodied up. Delvel gets a unanimous decision win. That's in the 145 division. So, and he winds up getting a contract. Then we move over to Louis Guru. I don't know how to say that name. Versus Nick Piccinini. That one looks harder, but it's easier to say. This was another, there was a lot of decisions on this card. 3 out of the 5 fights all in a row were decision wins. 2 of them got contracts out of it, so I guess not too bad. Pretty good fights for what they were. As you can see, there's some action going on here. Same with the fight with Delvel. Louis Gurul gets the win by split decision here and gets a contract. He moves up to 10-0 in his MMA record. Actually, Delvel is 8-0. So a couple, and Martinez is 8-0. So a few undefeated fighters that got the win to keep their undefeated records, which is pretty nice. I mean, going into the UFC undefeated is good, but might give you a false sense of hope. So it's a little tough, but I guess we'll see how these guys fare. And then we had the last fight, Nick Klein versus Geraldo Souza. Nick Klein gets a submission by rear naked choke in the first round, 37 seconds in. So a quick one there. Impressive win for him. And it was Klein that said John Jones is the greatest fighter to ever live. It's pretty funny that he runs over to Dana and says that. I don't know if he did it on purpose or if he just really wanted to tell him that he agreed, but shit was funny. So here's your wrap up of the contract winners. McAuliffe, Delvel, Gurul, and Klein all get the contracts. 4 out of the 5 fights get a contract to finish up the season for Dana White's Contender Series for this year. So we'll see how many of these guys. I think I actually covered every week this year of the Contender Series. There was a lot of downtime, so it was one of those that it was kind of easy to cover. Didn't have to fit it in with too much more. But it is nice to cover it and see if any of these guys go on a good run when they get into the UFC or how they do when they get there. So moving on to fights that were announced. We had UFC 310 in December announced this week. And this was the card that we thought maybe Conor would be coming back to, but of course that's not happening. So this was the one that we were talking maybe Conor and Chandler would fight on, but instead we had Bilal Muhammad turning around and making his first title defense against Shavkat Rakhmonov, which I gotta give him props. I mean, it's a tough fight, man. Rakhmonov is undefeated. almost all of his finishes are, almost all of his wins are finishes, whether they be submissions or knockouts. So really, Bilal's taking on one of the toughest fighters in his division right away. And, you would think that a lot of guys don't do that right away and turn around this fast either. But Bilal's out to prove a lot to a lot of people because he's probably one of the most hated fighters. I think he gained a little bit of love after winning the belt, but I'm not 100% sure how everyone still feels about that. But he is fighting to defend his belt in December. And then we have Pantoja versus Kaya Sakura. Alexandre Pantoja is going to be defending his title. Kaya Sakura is making his debut in the UFC and getting a title fight right away. But I guess when it's the men's featherweight division, like, there's not a whole lot going on down there. With Pantoja being the champ right now, he's already beaten a lot of the guys in that division. But he's gotten beat himself, obviously. So they're bringing in this guy from, I believe he was a champion in Ryzen. So bringing him right over to the UFC and putting him into a title fight for his first fight in the UFC. Sounds like he's a badass. I haven't really seen him or seen much of him. But then again, Ryzen's one of those other organizations you don't really see a whole lot from unless you're like diving deep into everything. And I do dive pretty deep into a lot of stuff, but man, there's so much with the UFC and all these other organizations that Ryzen's one of those ones. I've covered it before though. It's just one of those ones. It's hard to cover. It's international. A lot of very hard names to say, but it's still has some good fighters. So the rest of the card that was announced, we got Cyril Gane versus Volkov rematch. Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz. I thought I was wrong. And then we got Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes. That could be a good one. Smith has not looked too great in his last fight, and Reyes hasn't been able to bounce back since he lost to John Jones. So that's going to be an interesting fight there. And then you got Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. That should be a damn good fight. This is a rescheduled fight because Aljo had to drop out of their first time that they were scheduled to fight because of an injury. So rescheduled for December 7th. I think Tatiana Suarez is on the undercard. And there's a few other pretty decent fights on the undercard as well. So not a bad card for December. And I think that wraps it up for Combat Sports News. So let's move on to the recap of UFC Vegas 98. Brendan Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. This main event was actually pretty damn good. It was one of those back and forth fights that was exciting pretty much all the way through. And yeah, not a bad main event. There was nothing super spectacular that came out of this event, but again, still some decent fights happening throughout the card. Let's look at the prelims. We had to start off the prelims. My stream deck is freaking out. What's happening? There we go. Nope. All right, let me figure out what's happening here. Let's just do that. Okay, there we go. So we had Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha to start off the card, and Carpenter gets a second round rear naked choke submission on Rocha to get the win there, and now he is 8-0, so continuing to be undefeated. We'll be on the lookout for Clay Carpenter. Cody Haddon versus Dan Argueta, unanimous decision win for Haddon. Julia Pilastri gets a split decision win over Corey McKenna. And then we got Junior Tafa with a big KO over Sean Sharaf in the heavyweight division. Second round TKO for Tafa there. No surprise. He's either getting knocked out or knocking people out. But But yeah, I mean, it's almost always a quick fight with him and his brother. Like I said, either knocking people out or getting knocked out, but it's usually pretty exciting. Then we had Themba Gorimbo getting a unanimous decision win over Nico Price. Pat Sabatini right here getting a rear naked choke over Jonathan Pierce. That was a 145. I'm sorry, what the hell is 140? Featherweight. God damn it. I don't know why I always... Featherweight and flyweight are the two that I don't know, I mix them up all the damn time, which is very annoying to me. Probably annoying to everybody else too, but that moves us into the main card. And we have Ramazan Tamirov versus CJ Vergara. Yeah, and this got a performance of the night with Tamirov getting a TKO over CJ Vergara in the first round. So pretty quick fight there to start off the main card. I figured that was going to be a pretty decent fight considering both these guys seem to want to get at it right away. So that was a pretty quick one, and that was in the flyweight division. Then we got D-Rod versus Alex Morono. That was a fight I was looking forward to because both these guys come out swinging and they both hit hard. I was thinking though that Morono was definitely going to get the win here. D-Rod hasn't looked too great in his previous fights, although he was the favorite in this one. So that was kind of surprising. I'm glad I didn't bet on any of these because I probably would have lost this one. But yeah, it was a split decision win, so it was a back and forth fight. My stream deck is just acting up. Doesn't want to work for me right now. But yeah, D-Rod comes out with some big punches here. You could see a little bit of damage on D-Rod, but not much. Catching Morono with some flush punches there. Split decision win for D-Rod in that fight. And then we move on to Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. This was the second round TKO for Grant Dawson here with this big left, fucking looping left, and then finishes that on the ground with some ground and pound. As you can see, he's full mounted on his back, controlling him, ground and pound, gets the win in the second round. And then his post-fight speech was like talking about how much he appreciated his wife for putting up with him, and saying that he said what he appreciates the most is the fact that she has the big old dump truck that she carries on her that she can bounce a quarter off of. I don't know where that came from, but that shit was pretty funny when he said it. That made its rounds on social media. Pretty funny quote there. They showed his wife in the crowd and she looked like she was embarrassed, but laughing her ass off at the same time. So that was a pretty funny one. KO or TKO win for Grant Dawson in that one in the second round, lightweight division over Rafa Garcia. And then moving over to, hey, what's up, Infinity? Infinity's in the chat. I think he liked that bouncing a quarter off that dump truck. Moving on, we have oh shit, I did it again. Yep, that's all right. Jared Gooden versus Chidi Njokuani. This was another decision. There was a lot of decisions on this card. That's kind of what gave me, I mean, the last three fights were all by decision, even though they were pretty good fights, but you know, lots of decisions going on here. Jared Gooden got some good strikes in on Chidi Njokuani, but Chidi was able to pull out the win here by unanimous decision over Jared Gooden. Looks like Jared Gooden was the slight underdog. Yeah, it was almost even there. So, but Chidi's been on a roll. So I kind of figured that's how this fight would go. He was coming off a win over Rise McKee. So now he's got two in a row. And let's see, Jared Gooden. See, I think I was confusing Jared Gooden with Jared Gordon. Which, I mean, obviously that's the That's an easy one to confuse, but he was coming off a win over Wellington Turman by rear naked choke. So yeah, both coming off wins. Chidi Njokuani gets the win in this one though. And then we get to the Jun Young Park versus Brad Tavares. And Brad Tavares, I was definitely thinking he was going to be able to pull this one out because he did knock down Park at one point in time. This big right hand. But the Iron Turtle came back and put in some work. Winds up pulling out the split decision win. This was a lot of striking going on here when I thought that maybe it would get down to the ground at some point in time. But Jun Young Park comes out with the win here by split decision. A lot of split decisions too. I was kind of surprised at that one. What was it, like 4 or 5 split decisions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there was 5 finishes. Not a lot. So, you know, it's just one of those, again, the Apex cards, man. Sometimes you get really good fights out of them. Sometimes you don't know what to expect because you may not know a lot of the fighters on the card, or they just might not be the most exciting fighters. But, you know, at least we got fights. Sometimes that's just, you just got to be happy that you have fights going on, because it's weird when there isn't. You know, they happen every weekend. And we have another UFC Vegas fight card coming up this weekend too. But yeah, that let's see. And then the main event was Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. And this one was good, man. They definitely went back and forth. This one was very tough to score. I mean, watching the whole thing, it was like, damn, Taira looked like he was gonna be done. Really, like it was almost 100% that Brandon Royval was gonna be able to finish him. But Royval came back and put in work and winds up getting the win over. And I think I forgot some. I guess I did. What the hell? Anyway, I was trying a little bit of some different stuff here, trying to put in multiple pictures in each slide, just because sometimes I even forget to get to the pictures. So I trying to make it where I can fit in more, but I actually forgot some here. So that kind of sucks because it looks like Taira won, but he didn't. Royval won by split decision, another split decision. But this was a good fight either way. Like I said, so it's one worth going back and watching. It got performance of the night or fight of the night for these guys on this one. So for good reason, like I said, it was probably the best fight of the card. There was only 2 performance bonuses. Oh, 3. Tamirov got 1 too. Performance of the night over Vergara. Okay. So yeah, that wraps it up for UFC Vegas 98. I'm running through this quick. I didn't think I'd be going through this quick, but that's okay. I had more combat sports news than I've had in the past couple weeks, really. But that's why I thought maybe we'd be going a little bit longer. Either way, no big deal. Sometimes it's kind of nice to just get through it, and especially because I was thinking I was gonna have technical difficulties. I'm glad I'm not, though. I mean, hopefully, Infinity, if you're still in here, hopefully everything sounds okay. I know I was having issues with the levels last night, which, by the way, Technically Unsound podcast live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Arizona time. Go check it out if you want to hear me talk about something other than MMA. But Infinity's been on here before. Actually, all of them have during the watch parties. Tommy's been in here before during this show on Thursdays. So yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff. Okay, Infinity says it sounds great. Good. That makes me feel better because I was messing with stuff right before I jumped in here, which I know is not something that's smart to do, but I did it. Either way. So hopefully everything stays good. And I don't have any other issues. But let's get to UFC Vegas 99 happening this weekend. Saturday in the Apex in Vegas. Another Apex card, but this is the last fight night before the next UFC pay-per-view happening not this Saturday, but next Saturday in Abu Dhabi. That's the Max Holloway Ilya Topuria fight. that one I'm excited for. It's gonna be a good one. I mean, the rest of the card's pretty decent as well, but that Topuria and Holloway fight, it's almost guaranteed to be a great fight. So let's see, who do we got on this undercard? Oh, Austin Lane, former Jacksonville Jaguar player, turned MMA fighter, opening up this card against Robelas Despaigne in the heavyweight division. Austin Lane is not a great MMA fighter. He might have been a decent football player, not great in MMA. I'm really surprised he's still in the UFC, honestly. He's 12-5 overall, but he's on a 2-fight losing streak that have been pretty bad knockouts for him, against Justin Tafa and Johanata Denise. He had a no contest before that. He was on a bit of he doesn't even have a UFC win. Oh my god, that's worse than I thought. I thought he had at least one win in the UFC, but that was a Contender Series, so he came from the Contender Series. And let's see, hold on, I think he was, that he fought the Contender Series twice. He got the first time he fought Greg Hardy, another former football player for the Dallas Cowboys. And he was in the UFC for a little while, and that's how he got in, by beating Austin Lane. But yeah, Lane doesn't even have an actual win in the UFC. If he loses this one, he's definitely going to be out. There's no way they're going to keep him around after losing 3 in a row and not even having one win in the UFC. I hate to talk shit, but like, come on, man. We've seen this already with Greg Hardy too. Greg Hardy looked like he might be good in the beginning because he's so big and powerful, but he just folded. Like, he was easy to knock out, and he just did not do good at all. So yeah, and he's kind of a piece of shit. So if you remember the controversy, him beating on females and shit, he's no longer in the UFC anyway. Who gives a shit? But let's see, in the women's strawweight division, Melissa Martinez versus Alice Ardeline. Ardeline, I believe, is an OnlyFans girl, so you might want to at least go check out her Instagram. Then we got another OnlyFans girl, Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed. Jessica Penne, I hear, is she's definitely getting into the OnlyFans. So yeah, I don't know. She might not be one you want to. I don't know. Some people like her, some people don't. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how I feel about it, but she's there and you can find it somewhere, I'm sure. So go check it out if you're into it. Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed in the strawweight division. A lot of women's fights in this prelim card. Jocelyn Edwards versus Tamiris Vidal in the bantamweight division. Then we got a two-time Ultimate Fighter winner, Brad Katona, fighting John Matsumoto in the bantamweight division. Mateusz Nicolau versus Asu Almabayev, there we go, in the flyweight division, there to round out the prelim fights. A couple decent ones there. I mean, I guess that Nicolau fight could be pretty good. Brad Katona is kind of boring, so I don't know. And then you got a lot of women's fights, so be ready for some. I think that first fight might be your most exciting one in the prelims, because Austin Lane's probably going to get knocked the fuck out, and it's going to be impressive. Robelas Despaigne is a fucking gigantic dude. He's 5-1, and his last loss was by decision. Before that, he had a bunch of KOs in a row. God damn. All of his wins were by KO. That's why I'm saying he's probably going to knock Austin Lane out. So that first fight of the prelims is probably going to be the most exciting there. Let's get to the main event. I mean, the main card. Darren Elkins versus Daniel Pineda. Darren Elkins with the damage fucking tattoo on his chest is insane. And he is always involved in a crazy bloody fight. This fool takes so much damage, it's insane. You can just Google his name and go to images. You'll find nothing but bloody pictures of his face because he's always bleeding. But he's a pretty decent fighter. A lot of fights under his belt. This is a fucking old guy fight right here. 40 years old for Darren Elkins, 39 for Daniel Pineda. I mean, that's old for fighting for sure. I'm in my 40s, so I'm like, damn, that is old, but it's definitely old for fighting. 18-10 overall for Elkins, 7-4 by KO TKO, 8-1 in subs, and 13-6 by decision. It's a lot of fucking decisions, but you're guaranteed to see some blood because Darren Elkins always bleeds. He is coming off a win. Daniel Pineda, a lot of fights for these guys, man. 28-11 for Elkins, 28-16 for Pineda. 5-7 in the UFC. That's a losing record. That is not good. 9-3 in KO TKOs, 19-6 by submission. So there you go. Pineda's going to be looking to get this to the ground and get another submission under his belt. Darren Elkins likes to stand in and fucking trade punches. So yeah, and don't let this go to decision because Pineda might have the edge in submissions with those 19 wins, but look at his decisions. 0-7. He does not want to fight by decision. So if it goes to the cards, he's probably fucked, especially with Darren Elkins, who has won double digits in decisions, 13. That's crazy. Pineda is also on a 2-fight losing streak, so that's not good for him. But maybe he can catch Elkins. Like I said, he takes a lot of damage, so that's why his name is The Damage, because he's either giving it out or taking it. But either way, there's gonna be damage. That's Elkins on the top with the submission, and there's Pineda on the bottom with that punch, which is funny considering Pineda's got so many submission wins. That's Darren. Is that his last fight? Against TJ Brown with that rear naked choke submission there. And then Daniel Pineda was on a 2-fight losing streak, I believe I said. Yeah, with losses to Alex Caceres and Nathaniel Wood, both by unanimous decision. So he needs to not keep that streak going and losing by decision, because he's never won by decision. So don't go to decision. Get the fucking fight on the ground and submit Darren Elkins if Pineda wants to win. Otherwise, for Elkins, he just needs to let the fight go the distance, because he's almost guaranteed to win with those 13 wins he already has it by decision, and Pineda not having any. I'm just saying, those are good things to look at when you're betting. I don't have the best betting record in the world, but betting individual fights is not that bad for me. I need to start putting bets on just individual fights and winning little bits of money here and there, because a lot of times if I'm just missing my parlays by like one. So one fight will fuck it all up for me. So yeah, let's not talk about betting. I don't know why I always get into that, because I suck at it. But moving on, this should be a pretty good fight to start off the main card. Next fight on the card, Brady Highstand, or I think it's Highstand, versus Jake Hadley. Highstand is 8-2 overall, 3-1 in the UFC, 3-1 by KO TKO. Has not lost by submission at all. Has 3 wins there, 2-1 by decision. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Lost his debut fight in the UFC and hasn't lost since. So that's pretty good. Jake Hadley's 11-3 overall, 3-3 in the UFC. Has not lost by KO TKO. Hasn't lost by submission, and is 3-3 by decision. Both of them are coming off wins. Highstand, obviously. Oh shit. Don't tell me that this changed again. Did this to me last week. Nope, still looks. Oh, yep, it is. Damn it. I literally looked at this earlier. I can't believe that shit, because I was on here looking at this earlier. So it looks like Cameron Smotherman has taken Brady Highstand's place in the fight. This is 2 weeks in a row now that they've screwed me with this. I can prep all I want, but listen, I'm the only one doing all this. So if I don't see it in time and I've already prepped everything, I'm gonna go with what I knew. And I'm talking like last night I checked things. Last night I was finishing prep. Today, before I started, I looked at this card and everything was the same. And now we're seeing a different opponent for Jake Hadley. But Cameron Smotherman, is his new opponent, I guess. So let's check out what he's 11-4 overall. He's on a 3-fight win streak as well. But that was outside of the UFC. So he's making his UFC debut against Jake Hadley. So yeah, I guess we'll see what that turns out to be. That's about a bitch. Again, for the second week in a row. Shit's frustrating. I take all the time to prep things and then they change shit at the last minute, which I get it. You know, there's injuries, there's weight problems, there's all this other stuff that can happen. It's just weird for it to happen this many times in a row. Either way, I guess this is invalid now, but you got Jake Hadley in the bottom who's still in this fight. Let's move on to the next one that has not changed. Still Sumadarji versus Charles Johnson. This is happening in the flyweight division. We got Sumadarji 16-6 overall, 3-3 in the UFC. A lot of these guys are 3-3 on this card, which is weird. But it's legit. I mean, I it's not that I doubted myself. I just wanted to double check because that's like the third fight in a row where somebody's 3-3. But 13 wins by KO TKO, has not lost in that category, so that's looking pretty good for Sumadarji there. 1-6 by submission, 2-0 by decision. He is on a 2-fight losing streak. Charles Johnson undefeated, 16-0. That is not correct. He is 16-6. Where the fuck did I get that from? Yep, 16-6. Yeah, it makes sense because the decisions is 6. Man, that's okay. Who cares? He's 5-4 in the UFC. Has not lost by KO TKO. 6 wins there. 4 wins by sub, no losses, and then 6-6 by decision. He's on a 3-fight win streak. So yeah, I mean, damn, one's coming off a losing streak, one's coming off a winning streak. That's tough, but Sumadarji with all those KOs, he's gonna be looking to finish this shit on the feet for sure. His 2 losses were to Tim Elliott and Matt Schnell. Both those guys are tough opponents. Both of them won by submission over Sumadarji, so he definitely is susceptible to those submissions. The joys of being live. Yeah, no shit, Infinity. Yeah, it's a tough part. You go live and shit changes on the fly. I definitely can't change things on the fly like that while I'm trying to also do the show. I don't have anybody else in here working any of this shit with me, so I can't count on them, but that's okay. I don't get paid for this, and I do have a sponsor. It's Noctane smelling salts, but you know, perfect. I don't have anybody that's demanding for everything to be perfect, so it's okay. So Sumadarji, I mean, Charles Johnson, maybe get this fight to the ground and try to get a submission in there because Sumadarji has a losing record in submissions, but Johnson is on a 3-fight win streak, 2 of those being by unanimous decision, his last one being by KO over Joshua Van. The 2 decisions were over Jake Hadley, who's also on this card, and Hazat Maksum. Before that, he was on a 3-fight losing streak, all by decision. A lot of decisions for Charles Johnson. So, and he's a 500 fighter in that category, even though he's on a 3-fight win streak. Sumadarji has not lost by decision at all. So, I mean, fuck. This looks like a fight that's gonna go to decision probably. But it'd be nice to see Johnson get him to the ground, submit him, or Sumadarji with a big KO, because those look like their 2 biggest and strongest categories that they have for each other. So there's that fight. And see, I'm already getting ahead of myself because I'm talking about them, didn't even show the pictures. I got to get used to when I change things. I change things and then I forget that I changed them, and then I get ahead of myself and I don't. Yeah, it's okay. But I am trying to figure out other ways to structure the podcast. I'm making small changes here and there, so I am gonna have to just get used to it with some of these changes. had a lot of things change over this past week as far as setup wise and stuff like that, but it's all good. But yeah, there's that fight, Sumadarji versus Johnson. Let's move on. Let me make sure I'm going to the right one. Here we go. Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips is the next fight. This is, oh shit, I gotta move it. Here we go. Okay, Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips. I don't know what's up with Kyler Phillips' picture, but it looks like one of those filters that a girl puts on Instagram and makes him look completely fake. So that's a weird picture. I mean, with the long hair and stuff, it looks like his eyebrows and eyelashes are painted on. It's strange. Either way, he's a stud in fighting, that is. He is 12-2 overall, 6-1 in the UFC, 5-0 KO TKOs, 2-0 by sub, and 5-2 by decision on a 3-fight win streak. Rob Font, that's a tough opponent there for Kyler Phillips, even though he's been looking good on his own recently, but Font's one of those guys that's tough to get out of there. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, but that's not a big thing for Font. He's just one of those fighters. He's 28-8 overall, 10-7 in the UFC, 9-0 by KO TKO, 4-1 by sub, and 7-7 in decisions. A lot of these guys are 500 by decision. It's crazy. Rob Font is let's see, he's got his last 2 fights, Davison Figueiredo and Corey Sandhagen, two of the biggest fighters in that division. So as far as talent goes, and those were both decision losses for him. So I mean, it's not like he's getting worked. His last win was over Adrian Yanez by TKO back in April of last year. That was a first round TKO for him. But and that's that KO up there on top against Yanez. I mean, he's fought a lot of big names, though. You just saw Cody Garbrandt in that last picture. He's fought Chito Vera, Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, Ricky Simon, Sergio Pettis, Rafael Assunção, all kinds of big names. All the big names in that division, really. So Font is definitely has a lot of experience under his belt. He's fighting Kyler Phillips, which I guess you can see here with his hair the way it is and stuff. It kind of does look a little funky even when he's fighting. But he's on a 3-fight win streak with wins over Pedro Munoz, Hani Borsales, and Marcelio Rojo. 2 of those by decision, 1 by submission. A lot of decisions here for him too. He hasn't had a TKO since 2020 over Cameron Else. So yeah, I mean, this is a toss-up, man. If they get into a war, that's kind of the way Rob Font fights, but Kyler Phillips is pretty good on the ground, and so this might be one of those fights where they're gonna, just depends on where it winds up as to who might have the advantage, but should be a good one here for the co-main. And then we get to the main event. Michel Pereira versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. It's a funny ass nickname for him. I guess he has some weight issues sometimes, so that'd be why they call him Fluffy. Pretty funny. But Michel Pereira is that guy that came out doing backflips in the middle of fights. In his walk-in, he's doing flips and fucking cartwheels and crazy shit, jumping off the cage, doing wild shit. But he's not like what the fuck is his name? Johnny Walker, who was in there doing dance moves and fucking hurting himself. Pereira doesn't seem to hurt himself, but he seems to gas himself out doing all those flips and shit during the fight, and he's lost some fights because of it. But he is on a crazy 8-fight win streak right now. A lot of fights, a lot of experience for Pereira. 31-11 overall in MMA, 9-2 in the UFC, 11-1 by KO TKO, 8-1 by sub, and 11-7 by decision. Hernandez is 12-2 overall, 6-2 in the UFC. Only one win by KO, TKO, and one by sub. No losses by decision. He's on a 5-fight win streak as well. So good winning streaks for both these guys. They're both looking to continue those win streaks. So one of them's definitely got to lose unless they come to a draw. But yeah, this should be a good one. I think I kind of feel like Hernandez is one of those guys that he can make that one mistake that cost him a fight. And if you watch him fight, he's just more likely to make a mistake as well. Ferreira has just been on a tear. Even though Hernandez has been on a 5-fight win streak, it's like you see something in him sometimes where you're just like, damn, I don't know. But that 5-fight win streak for him is actually, I'm on Ferreira right now. He's on the 8-fight win streak. Shit, I'm getting him confused. Now my computer freezing? No, we're good. Let's look back, because see, Ferreira was on a 2-fight losing streak, and then he started the 8-fight win streak. A lot of those have been by decision, but he's had a couple submissions, three submissions and a TKO. He's fought like Ihor Pretoria, Mikhail Zaechuk, Andre Petrosky, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Nico. I mean, he's fought all the names. So yeah, I mean, Ferreira, he's explosive. He's got good striking. He does the crazy flying knees, flying kicks. He's always going to be doing the acrobatic shit. That's just what he does. But at least he's not flipping on top of his opponents anymore like he was doing before. He's got striking, he's got submission, and he's on that 8-fight win streak. So definitely looking to see what he's going to bring to this fight and how he's going to extend that win streak against Anthony Hernandez, who also has good striking on. But he, let me see real quick. Who has his opponent been on this 5-fight win streak? Roman Kopylov, Edmund Shabazian, Marc-Andre Barrio, Josh Freeman, and Rodolfo Vieira. Okay. I mean, not as big names as Ferreira for his win streak, but still decent names there. All by finish except for one by decision. So looks like 3 submissions and 1 TKO. So that's pretty good considering Pereira's got a lot of decisions. His last loss being to Kevin Holland by TKO in 2020. So we'll see where this fight gets us, because they both have submissions, they both have striking, and they're both on long winning streaks. So this could be definitely a really good main event, unless they cancel each other out and it becomes a snooze fest and gets a decision. You never know with these fights at the Apex. It could be greatness. It could be the most boring thing you've seen. I hate to say that, but it's true. So it is what it is. I guess we'll find out on Saturday. Check it out. Let's see what the time is. It's the usual earlier time for Apex. So 4 p.m. start time for the main card in Arizona. So you can go to Google UFC events. It'll bring up the the UFC kind of little card, and it'll tell you right at the top the time and date in your area. I guess if you have your location turned on, it'll tell you in your area. But that's the easiest way I figure out what time the fights are starting. It's pretty damn accurate all the time as well. Easy way to figure it out. So check that out this Saturday. UFC Vegas 99. Almost up to that 100 card for UFC Vegas. Not that that's a big milestone or anything, because yeah, it's those Apex cards, man. We'll see how many of those we get coming up next year, because Dana talked about the fact that, you know, they were going to be going away, and here we are with 2 in a row back to back again. So you never know. But as promised, I got to make sure that I shout out my sponsor again, Noctane Smelling Salts. Let me get that to focus. There you go. The red cap is the most potent. It's the strongest one. It's the one I like because I use these a lot, and I use them to, you know, be alert and stay awake when I'm driving across the state or into another state, because I do some driving for work. some traveling. These things help me out because I do have a weird thing about getting sleepy behind the wheel. hopefully that yeah, this is why I have them. That's what I use them for most of the time. I like to use them before the show and stuff too, to, you know, get myself more alert, be awake after long days at work, and I come in here and do this, you know. Infinity's got some on the way. He said can't wait to try his. So he got an order in. Tommy said he was possibly going to be ordering some soon as well. Follow that QR code. I put the website also in the description of the video all the time. They are a sponsor. I appreciate the sponsorship. So go check it out. They're fun. They're good to use. And yeah, you can use them for a lot of different things. There, a lot of power lifters use them for quick adrenaline rush before lifting, things like that. It's pretty cool. So I like them. I use them all the time, and they're effective. So yeah, this weekend we got the PFL pay-per-view. So if you're into PFL or you want to see Francis Ngannou fight another monster, go check out that card. I'll definitely be waiting for the highlights and stuff. A couple other decent fights on there. So it's kind of tough to call it a pay-per-view and ask people to pay for it, but that's what they're doing. So it's their super fight division. Cris Cyborg making her debut as well. And then you got UFC Vegas 99 that we just previewed. So some good fights coming up this weekend. Go check them out. Enjoy them. I got a busy weekend ahead of me celebrating mine and my dad's birthday this weekend. So got a lot of things going on. It'll be a busy one, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Get to spend some time with the family and stuff like that. So, and some friends. So it'll be cool. Anyway, appreciate everybody in the chat. Infinity, thanks always for the support. Tommy was in here for a minute. Cold Art Maker, and then a couple fools that are asking to fight me or, you know, threatening me and saying they're gonna knock me out and stuff. I don't even know why. But whatever. I just laugh it off because I think it's funny. So good luck with that, guys. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Don't forget to follow all my social media. It's been going on down there. If you want to listen to the audio only, you can listen on Spotify. You can catch the video there, but I'd appreciate it more if you did it on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe as always. I mean, when you're sitting there watching the video, just that little thumbs up button, just hit that shit, man. I forget all the time too. Don't get me wrong. Thanks, Infinity. Don't get me wrong, I forget all the time to hit that like button as well, but it helps people's, you know, with the algorithm, their video, you know, helps move it up there and stuff like that. Subscribing, sharing, hit the notification bell so you always know when I go live or put out a video or something. So do all that fun stuff. Appreciate you. Enjoy the fights this weekend. I'm out of here. Peace.